Hi, this is Jo Kakonga, and today I'm going to be taking through concept checking for vocabulary. This is a session that you need to watch before the input session so that we have lots of time for practice in the input session. Okay, what we're going to be talking about really is teaching vocabulary. Now when we teach vocabulary, the first important thing always is to put it into a clear context. It's much easier to understand something if it's in a context, an obvious context. You then need to explain what it means, clarify it, and finally it's really important to check that they've understood. And this last one is exactly what this session is all about. So assume that you've already taught the vocabulary. We're thinking now about how are you going to check that they've understood what you're talking about. So for the class, I want you to be particularly thinking about why is concept checking important and what are the golden rules. What are the things to really focus on when you're writing concept check questions? So here we go. Have a look at this. These are ways that teachers may use to check meaning, but none of them are very good. So just have a look, stop me for a minute and think why you think these questions might not be really helpful. Okay, let's have a look at this first one. This is the one that you're definitely going to use, even despite, in fact, what I'm going to tell you now, because it's the obvious one that comes to your mind. What does so-and-so mean? The difficulty with this, and to give you an example, if I put that word in there, now I know you know what that means, but I think you would have difficulty in explaining it to me. So the problem with this often is that it's more difficult to explain a word than the word actually is. This is particularly true at low levels where learners don't have a lot of language to explain with. So it's linguistically more difficult to explain the meaning. So that's a problem. So that's not a helpful question. If you ask this question, they might say no, but they're likely to say yes. And they like to say yes for a couple of reasons. One might be because they genuinely do understand. One might be because they don't understand but they're too embarrassed to say so. And one might be because they genuinely think they understand but they don't. So this is a good example because in French, sensible means sensitive. So they think they understand because they think it's the same in my language, but they don't, it's a false friend. So this kind of thing can be difficult. And if you ask, do you understand, you won't know whether they really do or not. And this one, of course, isn't even a question, it's just an assumption. And just because one or two people are nodding and seem to look as if they got it, doesn't mean the whole class has. So this is something to be really careful of, that you don't kind of get a couple of nods and fly on. So how can we check that they understand? It's clear it's important that we do, so how do we do it? We ask closed questions, what are called concept check questions. So these are questions that usually have a yes or no answer or a short answer, so they're linguistically easy to answer, but in order to answer them they have to understand what they mean. So the first thing when you're writing these kind of questions is to really identify what the word means. And once you've done that, you just turn that meaning into a closed question. For example, let's have a look at an example. So, he managed to get to sleep. Now we're looking at the meaning of managed. Now if you look in a dictionary is helpful because although I know you know what managed means, sometimes it's hard to really pinpoint it when you know it automatically. So managed is the idea of trying to do something that wasn't easy but that you did do it. You succeeded. Okay, so those are the three elements, if you like, of the word managed. So if you tried something that was difficult and you didn't do it, then clearly that's not managing to do it. If you tried something that was easy, that wasn't managing to do it. Okay? So all you have to do then is to make these into questions. So, did he try? And the answer's yes. Was it easy? The answer's no. And did he succeed? The answer's yes. So you can see by answering these short questions, yes, no, they're proving to you that they have understood what this means. And that's all there is to it. How easy is that? Now, it does seem very straightforward like that, but these are a bit like crossword puzzles. The more practice you get at them, the easier they get. But at first, they are a bit tricky to make up your own. So let's have a look at some of the difficulties that there are with this. Here's one example, and these questions are not very helpful. So I want you to just stop me for a minute and see, why are these not helpful questions? Okay, hopefully you've done that. So he didn't know if he was coming or going. To know if you're coming or going does not mean that you're coming or going, or that you'll know about it. It's about being confused, isn't it? So the meaning is he was confused. And the question therefore is, was he confused? And the answer's yes. Okay, so you have to be careful here. The one helpful hint number one is make sure that you're actually checking the correct meaning. Now this might sound obvious, but it's not always easy. And as I say, learn a dictionary will really help you here to give you a simple definition of things. Let's have a look at another one. Stop me and have a look at this one. Okay, we can see here that this is too general. There's lots of things that are made of wood and are in your house. A wooden spoon, a chair, all sorts of things, yeah, potentially. Okay, so here this is too general. And what would be better would be something like this. Food or clothes, clothes obviously, which room's it in a bedroom. And the obvious one, of course, it was something like that, a concrete noun to show a picture. And say, is this a wardrobe? And maybe show another picture, a chest of drawers. Is this a wardrobe? No. Okay, so helpful hint number two is make sure that you're specific about the meaning. So you need to make sure that you've got the right meaning and that you've got questions that are specific to that meaning and are not too general. Here's another one, and this, trust me, is a really easy trap to fall into. Okay, have a look, stop and look at this one. Now the trouble with this, obviously, is that you can answer this question without understanding wandered about. He wandered about the town. Did he wander about? Yes. But it doesn't mean that I understand wandered about. I can just see the logic. Okay? So what we need here is to look at not to use the target language in the question. Did he walk? Yes. Walk fast? No. Did he have somewhere special to go? No. So we look at the meaning of wandered about, which is about walking around somewhere, not fast, nowhere special to go. So here, a helpful hint is don't use the target language. And as I say, trust me, this is an easy trap to fall into. You tend to make a question exactly from the sentence and the target language will be in there. You can't ask someone to explain something using the same thing. Okay? Here's another one. Have a look at this. What's wrong with this one? Okay, hopefully you switched me off. Here you can see, this is very obvious, isn't it, that this language is much more difficult than this language. So clearly the language that you're using in the question needs to be at least at the same level, preferably easier than the language that you're teaching. Okay, so this would be better questions. You know, did he look at the tickets? Yes. Did he want to have the tickets? Okay. Yes. So grade your vocabulary, preferably below the target language, preferably easier, but at least at the same level, certainly no more difficult. And again, easy trap to fall into, because what you'll find is that you'll search for synonyms, and the synonyms are often more difficult. So again, you know, it's easy to laugh, but these things are really easy to do. So let's have a look at another one. Have a look at this and tell me what you think is wrong. Just switch me off for a minute. Okay, so here we've got a little bit similar to what we had before. I can answer this question. What will turn off the LED indicator? It doesn't mean I understand what an LED indicator is. Okay, so here I'm looking at the turning off, really. So what would be better would be probably to show a picture. That's with concrete nouns, this is often the easiest thing. Maybe is it a light? Is it big or small? It's small. So make sure that your questions target the right language, that you're not asking about the switching on or off, you're actually asking about the LED indicator in this case. So make sure that you're targeting the right language. Okay, so let's see if you can have a go. Here's the word snow. So you need to think about, what does it actually mean? I know you know what it means, but think about it carefully and then change those statements into questions. Right, stop me a minute, see if you can have a go. Okay, hope you've done that. There's a few possibilities. Of course, the easier one is to show a picture. Is this snow? You can't see it very well, I'm afraid, in that white background, but the answer is yes. You could also do this in the negative. Is this snow? No, it isn't. You can also ask yes or no questions, things like this. Okay, so where the questions are short, yes no questions are often the ones that people do ask. But they don't have to be yes no, they could be short answers, like this, for example. And they could be either or questions, like this. Or personalised questions, like this. For example, clearly you'd have to know which country they came from. So now what I'd like you to do is to try some of these on your own. Choose a word, any word, think about its meaning carefully and see if you can think of some concept check questions. Good luck, and we'll be doing some more of this in class, so you'll have more of a chance to have another look.